Thanks, everybody, for being here. I am Andrew Gray. I'm going to moderate this podcast and video cast today. Give a little quick introduction of myself and then get introductions from everybody here on screen. Again, Andrew Gray, I'm the CEO of Virtus. We're an insurance brokerage headquartered out of Kansas City. In 2022, we partnered with the Wilson family in their insurance brokerage, which is called Kemmons Wilson Insurance Group. Ultimately, rolled the business up into Virtus and are very excited about our presence in Memphis and want to grow our presence in Memphis. So the intent today is to talk about the future of Memphis, a little bit of the legacy and history of Memphis. And so we've got three colleagues and guests here on the call to talk about it. So to start things off, we'll make quick introductions about who you are, where you're from, and basically where you work. So Spence, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Spence Wilson Jr. I'm currently chairman of Kemmons Wilson Companies and couldn't be more excited about the partnership with Virtus and kind of what we're doing together and looking forward to doing together going forward. Born and raised in Memphis, love this city, and really excited about the conversation today.
Great. Thank you, Spence. And Ted?
Hey, Andrew. Ted Townsend, President and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber. We're the economic development organization in our region focused on creating economic vibrancy in all of our communities, building a future-ready workforce, and creating a business climate that is conducive to additional investment and job growth here in the community.
Thank you, Ted, for all that you do. And the introduction, and Anna.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Anna Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of New Memphis. We are a local nonprofit working on talent in the community. So we are, I always say, the flip side of the Chamber's coin, where they're trying to attract and grow businesses to a region. We are making sure that we are attracting and growing the talent that fuels those businesses. So we are focused on talent retention, development, and activation, engagement in the community. And I'm, again, delighted to be here and excited about this conversation.
Maybe just kick off the conversation around the revitalization of Memphis, what's going on today, what you see as opportunities in the future, what projects have been undertaken that have had a lot of impact. So multifaceted question. Ted, maybe if I just start with you, you can give us some insights.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. I'll take you back very quickly to 2008 and the recession. I know we don't like to visit that very often, but I think it's important to understand perspective and where Memphis was at that time and where we are now. So it took us 10 years to recover from the recession. And even then, we only saw nominal growth in 2018, 19, and 2020. In fact, in February of 2020, we reached our highest job total in the history that we've been tracking it. And obviously, the national average of recovery from the recession was 6 years. So it took Memphis 4 more years than typical metros. And so we were hit hard. And we were celebrating that nominal growth and certainly celebrating that historic job growth in February of 2020. And then the pandemic hit. And in March, over the course of 6 weeks, we lost 70,000 jobs, which meant that all of that growth that took 10 years to get to was wiped out in 6 weeks. And so as an economic developer, it gives you sleepless nights to consider, okay, are we looking at another 10-year recovery period? And I'm proud to say that it took Memphis 2 years to recover from the recession, whereas the national average was 2.5 years. And so that's something to celebrate. And when we look at the why, because naturally you go to that question, how do we recover so quickly, in fact, ahead of the national average? When you look at the major indices of our industry sectors, over the last 10 years, most of them have 50%, if not greater, gross regional product growth over that time period. And most of that occurred in 18, 19, 20 through 21, 22. So that is why we rebounded. That's why we had more resiliency and buoyancy in our economy than perhaps we even realized. And so our Greater Memphis Economic Research Group studies these industry sectors in depth, and we have a better understanding of what challenges they faced, but also what opportunities. I can tell you that in 2021, we were a part of the group that was able to secure Ford's investment in what is now known as Blue Oval City. That will be the world's state-of-art electric vehicle assembly plant, as well as battery production. Another 6,000 jobs, almost $7 billion in capex that's going into that site alone, much less the suppliers that are coming with that. So our future is incredibly bright, and we are competing every day to maximize the impact of this growth, helping businesses continue to expand and invest here. And then most importantly, looking at the business attraction aspect of that. So almost on a weekly basis, we are conducting site visits. We're hosting companies here. We just had one in this week that's looking at a very exciting advanced manufacturing operation here. So we have a tremendous amount of growth opportunity. And what I tell people is we're not a recovering economy. We're not an emerging economy. We're well established and in high growth mode. And that's a unique position for Memphis to be in. And we're excited about what the future holds.
No, that's great. And really exciting how quick the city bounced back post-COVID and all the interest, excitement, and to your point, high growth mentality of the city at large. So Ted, thank you there. Anna, how about your input?
In our work at New Memphis, we are asking questions to individuals about how committed they are to Memphis. So asking about their projected retention to the city. We're asking them essentially to rate this community. We often use like a net promoter score. Would you recommend living in Memphis to a friend or colleague? The perceived livability in Memphis has increased tremendously over the last decade. We've seen that particularly for young college educated talent. So 25 to 34-year-olds with a 4-year degree, how they feel about Memphis is a metric that's very important to us. Those things that drive retention are often perceptions. So it is, the reality of how much green space do we have? How vibrant is the arts and culture community? How easy is it to get around the city? Those are all realities, but if you are not aware of those assets, you don't feel connected to them. That's a lot of our work to make sure that those things that we can authentically celebrate in Memphis are known by the talent that we need to be here. So in general, we've seen really in that decade when even as our economy was struggling in the early 2010s, as we were recovering from that recession, we were still seeing these continuous upticks in how people's commitment to Memphis. We have, I think, an unparalleled level of engagement from our business leaders who care deeply, not just about their bottom line, but about the city. I think what I have my eye on most as we look to the next few years is how do we make sure that in a world where people can be working remotely, where the job market may be in favor of the employee, and just in terms of choice, how do we make sure that you're truly anchored in Memphis, even if your job may not be? So that is a continued kind of question mark for us as we look to what the next few years hold.
Spence, you're a longtime Memphian. Maybe give some color with respect to kind of the journey that you've seen Memphis on over the last, maybe your whole life.
I think for me, it's probably been the last 20 years, but particularly the last 10 years is when you've really, what I coin a renaissance, Memphis has been underway. Ted could probably say the number. We used to look back a few years, look out the front window a few years, and it's probably now well over $30 billion of public and private investment that's coming to the city. The city, I think, recognizes now it's a winning team, that we're a winning team, and that money is betting on us to succeed and thrive and grow and stay relevant. If you look at a lot of city resurgence or city renaissance, if you will, so we talk about Denver, you can talk about Atlanta, Nashville, Austin, Detroit. What we learned was that, it was some coalition of the private sector that really kind of led those efforts. And what we realized here, that was the one kind of leg of the stool that was missing, again, going back about 10 plus years ago. So we had great philanthropy, we had great public leadership, and we still had a lot of citizens that were positive about Memphis, choosing to be here, but really didn't really have that coalition. So I said we weren't the silver bullet; we were just the last leg of the four-legged stool to fall in place from which a foundation now has been built where we all work lockstep kind of towards a common vision for the future. And so that to me is what's been really exciting to see us kind of, when I say taking control of our destiny, recognizing that no one was going to do this for Memphis other than Memphians. And so that's what's been kind of not only the empowering part of the journey, but also a rewarding part to see the army of advocates kind of come together and charge this hill ahead of us.
I've seen it too in my interactions with you, Spence, just the pride in the city, and not only from you, but some of the other folks that you've introduced us to with respect to kind of that public-private partnership, the civic side as well as the business side. Really, again, I'll use the word pride in having a desire to make Memphis a great place to be, live, grow, raise a family, things of that nature. Ted, maybe back to you on some of the things you said. Just on this might be a more subjective question, but what are you seeing from potential employers wanting to move to Memphis? What are you hearing? What types of employers are there? What's going on?
We have 50 projects under management right now, and these represent winning another 14,000 jobs. That's backed by $15 billion in private sector capital that's looking to come here. And these jobs are really high quality. The average wage of those jobs is over $61,000 per year. The bulk of these opportunities are advanced manufacturers. So that's what's driving the wages up. And it's not just my words, but we have site selection consultants who, in many cases, are driving the decision tree on where these companies invest in their operations. And they have said Memphis is the hottest market right now. And when you consider the cost of living and the ease of doing business here in Memphis, it's highly attractive. When you layer on top of that the amenities and the lifestyle that Anna was talking about, and the workforce that we have now and that we're continuing to build and curate, this is our moment. I truly believe that Memphis is the next great investment opportunity in the United States. And a lot of these companies that are looking at us are from international markets. So there's this whole internationalization of our economy that is going to occur over the next 3 to 5 years. The capital that is possibly coming our way will truly transform our identity. And we're building this digital delta, if you will. It's an exciting geography for these companies to consider. And when you look at the supply chain and logistics prowess that we have, Business Facilities Magazine ranked Memphis number 1 in supply chain and logistics, not just 1, but 3 years in a row. And so when we have these companies coming in, the C-suite executives, I merely have to call Spence or many of his colleagues in our chairman circle, and I bring them in, and they talk about the why. And that is a lot different than your Chamber of Commerce saying it. Of course, we're paid to do that. But when you have business leaders that come in and say, we can do this here, we've done it, we've been incredibly successful, you can do it here as well, that has a huge impact on our closure rate.
What do you think, Anna, is the drivers to attract great talent to fill all these jobs Ted's bringing?
When it comes to site selection, access to a skilled workforce is in some ways the most important factor that companies are considering. We've got incredible talent in our own backyard. We are investing deeply in them. We are very committed as a community to improving our K through 12 education system and those outcomes so that we are feeding this pipeline of great talent. So at New Memphis, a lot of our work in the collegiate space is focused on internships. About a third of the students at the U of M are first-generation college students, which is well above the national average. About half of them are on need-based financial aid, so they're receiving a federal Pell Grant. So these are students that are coming to the table with a deficit of social capital in many ways. They may not have the blueprint for a professional career kind of within their immediate sphere. So we work with a lot of partners. There are incredible organizations both within the universities and colleges. We have a great community college working to really intercept those students to make sure that they have the ability to persist to graduation. But I think what's also really important, and this brings in both Ted and Spence's point about the involvement of the business community, making sure that those students have awareness to and access to the kinds of careers that can exist here. Those young people have to know what job is waiting for them. And I think it is a matter of giving them access to the skills and the networks to explore careers in Memphis. A lot of the work that we do is connecting them to business leaders, both to learn about those kinds of careers, to get mentorship, but also to get access to internships. The data around internships is really compelling. It both an internship experience makes it more likely for a student to persist to graduation. So that's a win for us and the student, but it also makes them more likely to take their first job in the region where they intern. They have the family, the friends, the connections. They're already here in our own backyard. Like, what do we do to support them, develop them, and help them fall in love with Memphis? I think that's an important and sometimes undersung part of the work, is that if you're from Memphis, we don't want to take for granted that you already love it here. We want to make sure that we are thinking about how to connect you to those parts of the community that really resonate for you as a young person.
Condé Nast Traveler had Memphis as one of the spots you had to visit. So I flipped through, someone sent me the catalog or magazine. I flipped through, it's like Bora Bora, Cayman Islands, and Memphis. So Spence, did you get any, leverage with your friends, or what did that, kind of media do for this city as far as just raising awareness of, the level of interest and the deep heritage of Memphis and where it's going?
Any type of validation like that from an outside kind of respected source is good for the city. There's just a lot to do. And a lot of people I find from out of town are very surprised because they have and that's part of then our challenge is how do we, better get the word out about Memphis. Memphis is not done. We're a humble city. And we've realized that, you can still be humble and toot your horn, and, we've got to make sure we're telling our story. And, these two folks here we've got today are doing a great job of getting that story through and making it attractive for others to, really consider coming here. Because it is, for those of us that are spoiled, we get to live here every day. We can testify it's an incredible place to work, live, and play.
I will add on to that. I think, number one, it's great that Condé Nast recognizes Memphis as one of the best places in the world to visit. But it's not just them. As I looked at this, we love the superlatives because we weave that into our narrative each and every day. But look, Time Magazine named Memphis one of the world's greatest places. That was 2021 in the midst of a pandemic then, right? Memphis made the top 10 list of places to visit in the world, as ranked by U.S. News and World Report. USA Today ranked Memphis number one best destination on a budget. And so all of these things, as they have aggregated, they've translated to 4.2 million visitors coming to Memphis last year, which, and now our friends at Memphis Tourism have told us October is breaking records. We've had more people fly into our modernized airport than ever before. And here's where that then translates into economic development. Gusto just ranked Memphis the fastest city in the U.S. for job growth in August. That's tremendous. We're not number one very often, but when you consider job growth being number one in the nation at 2.1% above many other major markets in the country, that's incredible. September job numbers just came out. We added almost 4,000 jobs to our economy, the majority of those in hospitality. So Condé Nast, all of these other publications saying, look, folks, if you're traveling on a budget or you just want to go to a world-class city, go to Memphis. And now they are, and they're experiencing what we get the pleasure of enjoying every day, like Spence talked and Anna talked. And that's translating into, economic output. And the multiplier effect of that is tremendous. And that's an industry that's been hit pretty hard, right? So we've seen that recovery from the pandemic, and now they're exploding in growth because we have such a vibrant city.
So, what have you seen, based on what you've touched on? And I really like the notion of keeping people that are from Memphis, comfortable in Memphis, know Memphis, keeping them there and not just taking it for granted. What have you seen employers do really well, whether it's the internships or, just involvement in the city that has helped them achieve competitive advantage in hiring and really growing their workforce?
I think the employers that are being most effective in terms of talent retention to Memphis is intervening and making sure that their employees, whether they be new to town or not, are being pushed towards community engagement. So that looks like a company asking their executives to serve on nonprofit boards. It looks like a company inviting their employees out into the community to attend events, to volunteer, sort of orchestrating those kinds of, and that's, a service that New Memphis offers so that we can, do that at scale across companies. But it's very simple, but it works. This sense of, you matter as a person in Memphis, you matter as talent in Memphis is, I think it's organic, like it is pervasive, that we are glad you're here. Like that is kind of a mantra that we have, like, we're glad you're here. But I see great companies do that too, where they're not just saying, hey, you need to go volunteer or, let's, have our company retreat at our great local botanic gardens, whatever that might be. That's smart. But I think also helping young people understand that they can play a role in Memphis. And that leans into a strength of ours, which is you can sit down with the mayor. You can, the chamber does an incredible job of this because they have this circle of CEOs and very influential and smart and fantastic leaders, but they give access to the young people in those companies too. So if you're a young professional, you can sit down with Spence, you can sit down with a Fred Smith and ask questions and they listen and they care. And I think that goes a long way in helping young people feel valued and giving them a sense of opportunity. The smartest companies to close are the ones that understand that young talent is probably not going to stay at your company for 30 years. The reality is, like, their tenure, and this is not specific to Memphis, for a 20-something college-educated professional is 3 years, like 2.8 years is like the average time they stay at their first two jobs. So it's not it's just like that is the way of the workforce now. My goal is for that talent, when they decide to make a change, that they're making that change and they're going to AutoZone or they're going to Alsac St. Jude or they're going to First Horizon. And so then that's how it becomes an ecosystem. And the companies that understand that, yes, they're trying to retain talent for their company, but if they are also retaining talent for Memphis, then everybody benefits.
Absolutely. And Ted, maybe a tangential question to that, maybe more so from the employer side. What have you seen businesses do? Obviously, some of this is self-serving, advice I'm seeking to make a real impact in Memphis, on the hiring side, but also just in the community, in the business community.
Well, I think from a talent retention perspective, what we're seeing, and it's being applied more and more frequently, but we have to equip those HR professionals and executives with the data. But Memphis is a very affordable city. In fact, it's ranked either 1 or 2 in the nation, depending on which publication and ranking method that they use. And it, when you look at a Bloomberg or a CNBC, where they're saying, even most recently, that salaries in Memphis go farther than anywhere else in the country. So your earning potential has greater impact. And then, again, we're seeing companies that truly are asking, especially those that are coming into our community for the first time, they're asking how they become part of the fabric of this, not just the business community, but Memphis at large. The layer upon layer that we can reveal to them over time, they realize this wasn't just a strategic investment. It's not just about the financial transaction. It's the impact on lives and the impact on the community that they can represent. And they can do it a lot easier here than in many other markets that they currently have operations. So that's what we see more and more.
So last question, maybe 30 seconds on where does Memphis go in the next 5, 10, 15 years? What's the future? Anna, I'm going to start with you.
My sort of prediction / wish for the community is being clear-eyed about our city's challenges, being committed to addressing them and improving them, but also at the same time, still really prioritizing the amenities, the assets of our city. I believe that we can and should continue to invest in our arts community, in our parks, in our culinary scene, those things that we talked about today. Those are important, and they're as important to somebody as some of those bigger metrics. So I hope to see us continue to rebuild our downtown, revitalize our neighborhoods, and think about the infrastructure of Memphis in a really big vision kind of way.
Great. Ted, what's your vision?
So our vision is what we call Prosper Memphis. And by the end of 2030, we're going to announce over 50,000 high-quality jobs. That's going to be represented by 700 new advanced industry firms that bring their operations here. We're going to be producing 20,000 STEM graduates per year. And we're going to have the most vibrant, diverse economy in the world. We're focused on Black wealth. For Memphis to succeed, we must attain that. And so that means that Memphis will have the highest median household income for African Americans in the country. And so that is what we expect. We expect to become greater. And I ask myself and our team every day, at the end of every day, did you make Memphis greater? And our expectation is we'll answer that in the affirmative. And that's going to be really special.
That's great. And Spence, bring it home. What's your vision for the city?
I'd like to think that one day that the country, the world, will just recognize Memphis as being one of the best cities. And when you say best, what does that mean? Best city to, again, live, work, and play, but the best city on an example of how you come together as a community, you care for each other, you engage meaningfully where you're called in your community beyond just your work and profession to really make a difference. And I think that's the opportunity we've got. And I think the more, and we're already doing a lot of that, I think doing on a bigger scale across a larger population just is going to equate to bigger positive impact and hopefully an example that will inspire, cities that are much bigger, much further along, many more assets that we've got to deploy and use. And so if we can kind of play that part in becoming a model city and doing it in a very authentic manner, in a real manner, then I think I'd be proud to be a part of that.
That's incredible. And I want to thank you all for your time today as we wrap up. Obviously, all three of you are fantastic ambassadors for this city. The words that came up a few times and resonated with me is the pride that Memphians take in the city, the authenticity of the people, and excited about the high growth and the energy that the three of you certainly bring to making the city a better place to live, work, and play. So thank you all for the time. Appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you all soon.